the Zephyr. This is probably one of the most exciting 65% today. What a time to be alive. But first, the sponsor of this video. Zeal PC is your one-stop shop for some awesome Zelios V2s, Xilinx V2s, Telios V2s, and Helios switches, which are all amazing premium switches. Pair those up with some Zeal stabilizers for an endgame build. I built boards with these switches and stabilizers, and goddamn, they are awesome. Zeal did a solid with these new switches. Check them out with my affiliate link where I get a small kickback for any purchases you make on the site. The link is in the description down below, or you can go check it out at zealpc.net/man-of-interests. Okay, so a quick disclosure about this Zephyr. While I am sponsored by Zeal and I have my own handy dandy affiliate link down below, I did pay for the Zephyr at full price out of my own wallet. All $628 of it. I want to talk about this build, then we'll talk about the keyboard and the typing experience. So this build was pretty fun. For the switches, I used looped Helios, which was a pain, and here's why. I used 3204 for the bottom housing, 1514 for the springs, 3203 for the stem, and for this amount of work, I would have been set just using 3204 for the bottom and 3203 for the stem and cut out the 1514 entirely. I still got a sound and feel I really like, so in the end, it all worked out. After an hour and a half of looping switches, I finished my whole batch of 90 switches. A bit more than I needed, but might as well do the whole batch. Next, it was time to set off to building this keyboard. To help reduce the amount of fingerprints on the plate, I got some fun gloves. While it's silly, if you've ever dealt with brass PVD, you know what I mean when I say that they are fingerprint magnets. So, gotta avoid those on your plate if you want to look A+. Speaking of prints, there's one silkscreen print on the PCB you should always pay attention to. It's kind of done in metal, but whenever you build a keyboard and you see that Wilbur logo, you know you're in for a good PCB. For layout options, the only things you can choose between is you want to split your backspace, or if you want to step or unstep that caps lock. Of course, I went with the standard backspace and a stepped caps lock. The bottom row keycap sizes measure 1.5, 1.57, 1.5, 1, and 1. Probably the best and cleanest looking bottom row for a 65% in my opinion. After securing all 66 switches to my 5mm plate, I was set to solder. But that 5mm plate, it's a heavy plate. Honestly, if you have that much brass on your plate, its weight is no different than the weight of, an insert on the bottom. There's a nice heft in the hand, which I appreciate. The bottom of the plate has small notches cut out on the north and south side, so your switches will still have space to clip into the plate. This heavy, thick, dense plate will strongly contribute to the typing characteristics alongside the mounting method for the Zephyr, which is the sandwich method. Nom nom nom. Soldering was easy peasy lemon squeezy, and I breezed by pretty quickly without any issues. The pads were adequately sized and the solder took to them very easily, so it was very clean all throughout. After it was all built up, the reassembly was simple enough. I wish there were magnetic screws, but these plated screws at least looks really nice with the silver PVD. 12 screws. Definitely a lot of screws on a 65%, but I guess you need that kind of security if you want to sandwich a heavy plate like the one inside the Zephyr. So, A+ for that. Programming the Zephyr was easy enough. Because this is a Wilbur designed PCB, I knew that meant I could use the VIA configurator. For those who aren't in the know, the VIA configurator was created by Olivia of GMK Olivia fame. Yep, she's that multi-talented. It's by far the best GUI configurator for mechanical keyboards. All I had to do was download the most recent version, and then as soon as I opened it, the PCB was immediately recognized, and I could immediately program everything and anything to my heart's contents. There's no need to worry about flashing hex files, pushing a reset button on the PCB. You just choose the key, you choose what you want it to become, and then it happens. Magically, instantaneously. I'm going to say magically because I'm not actually smart enough to explain how it works, but trust me on this one, it's magic. Magic. Last but not least is the key set. I decided to go with the GMK Yuri because, well, no matter how you look at it, this eggplant purple is more of a royal blue with hints of purple. Hints of purple, they're definitely there. But I'm feeling this GMK Yuri quite a bit, and I think it works really, really well with the silver PVD all around. So, great combo. Well, now that it is all built, I can get to probably what I kind of preluded to, the most controversial thing about this keyboard. Not the price, but the color conspiracy. So if you look at my PayPal invoice here, you can see the confirmation that I indeed purchased an eggplant purple Zephyr. My Zephyr, it looks, to be honest, a very, very, very dark blue with hints of purple. I can confirm I did not receive a midnight blue Zephyr, since it's a much lighter blue. On Zeal's page, he does have a picture of the midnight blue with GMK Yuri, the same set on mine, and we can clearly see that I don't have that blue. I have a much darker one that has a kind of tone of purple in it, but the board itself, I wouldn't say, is purple. This is probably a point that would upset a lot of people. I know he has a picture of on his site on one of the bottoms. It looks to be a very dark, very rich purple, but the follow-up picture next to that is more of a dark blue similar to mine. I know Zeal has mentioned on Discords and online in the past that it's very hard to capture this purple, and I agree, the color is actually pretty hard to capture, but with all my best efforts and my own eyes, I'm pretty content to say that it's a very, very dark blue with hints of purple in it. And you know what? I'm personally okay with that because I don't have anything that would go with an extremely darkly rich purple. In fact, I think GMK may not look good on a normal eggplant, but it sure looks good on this eggplant. So what is it like to use a keyboard that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars? Well, it's pretty good, especially with these Helios, which have been a super popular switch for the last couple of months. This silent linear has a nice roundness to the sound, which I enjoy, and a nice smoothness. I mean, these switches were pretty smooth before I lubed them, but now they're silky, like silk pajamas you want to slide in and cuddle up kind of smooth. The Zeal stabilizers, of course, are smooth and perform excellently, especially lubed. Forgot to mention, yeah, Zeal stabilizers included with the board. Yay. This is by far the most premium feeling 65% I have ever typed on. It feels amazing. The thick plate sandwiched in feels really good, and part of me wants to rebuild it with tactiles just out of pure curiosity and experimentation, but right now, it feels at home with Helios. The weight on the back looks absolutely beautiful and classy. The exposed hex screws on the back is probably one of the next controversial design choices. It evokes a very industrial feeling to this keyboard, and honestly, I like it a lot. I know many others would probably prefer hidden or flush countersunk screws, but in this case, I'm okay with it. There are so many of them, they look more purposeful as opposed to if they were, for example, maybe only 8 or only 4. Having 12 this many makes them look very purposeful and goes well with the weight. And speaking of the weight, that's a highlight for me. I love the straight lines that make the blocky text of Zephyr on the back. That helps complete the industrial feel evoked by the screws. It's hefty, but also a giant fingerprint magnet, which is kind of a pain to deal with. Give it a month or so, I probably won't worry after that about fingerprints until I have to bring it to a meetup. The sides look nice, with the top half acting almost as an outer ring to the bottom along the sides of the case. It leads to a nice seamless look on the front as opposed to seeing the seam on top and bottom in the case meeting like with many other cases. Along the backside we have the USB-C port, which is centered, and I like me a centered USB-C port because I think it looks really nice here. USB-C is slowly becoming more and more prominent, and I like that. It's the future, folks, so get ready to see more of it. So, I'm pretty pleased with the Zephyr, and despite all the positive feedback, my wallet is what comes back to haunt me. Usually for most boards I build, custom or no, I put them on a different rubric for pricing, and for this one it's on my over $500 fully built pricing matrix. Before I go into switches and keycaps, I was at $628 for the kit with stabilizers and shipping, and $70-ish for switches, and then about $150 for keycaps. So I'm looking at around $850 for a fully built Zephyr. Of course, I could have gone for more budget options in terms of switches and keycaps, but you don't get a keyboard this nice and go halfway with your other options. The typing experience, firm but forgiving, with the silencing pads from the Helio sliders feeling a nice evocative feeling around your fingertips. I can hammer hard, I can hammer softly. I won't have typing fatigue no matter how I type. Even when my fingers are hammering on as hard as I can, the Helios turn what would be loud clacks into comfortable thocks. With a plate 5mm thick, a top-mounted feel wouldn't really matter due to how rigid the plate would be, so I think going with the sandwich mount was the best choice for the Zephyr. The 8-degree typing angle is near the cusp of the highest I'd usually like to go, especially for prolonged typing, but the front has an adequate height where I don't feel like I'm reaching far for the number keys. So ergonomics work pretty well for me with the design. Overall, while my wallet is feeling the hurt, I'm pretty happy with this keyboard. While I wish the color was a bit more purple, I'm happy with this blue as is. I can definitely understand why and how someone can be disappointed in the final color, but this is the keyboard for those with the money to spend and know what they really want. A really thick plate on an industrial looking keyboard that is heavy. When other 65% come out in the future, I'll look at them, then I'll look at the Zephyr, and then that'll make me think, do I really need that other 65%? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my review for the Zephyr. What do you guys think of the Zephyr? Is it a board you'd ever consider getting? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. More coming out soon, especially since I've basically finally recovered from my flu, so I should finally be getting back up to date with more regular content. Yay! Feel free to check out my Patreon in the link down below if you'd like to support what I do. Every little bit helps. And feel free to check out my other videos if you haven't just yet. Well, I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios. Okay, I will accept that take.